What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by Built Bar. Go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code Locked On, and you will get 20% off your next order. It is Monday, November 23rd, the year 2020, and it is Victory Monday. The game went a little different than many of us expected, but the Buckeyes ultimately came out victorious, beating the Hoosiers in a top 10 matchup. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at JStevens07. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter as well at Locked On Buckeye. That is correct. The matchup against the Hoosiers went different than expected, but the Buckeyes ultimately did come out victorious. In segment number 2 today, we will discuss the things that went wrong in the game. Segment 3, we'll talk about why this was a needed reality check for the Buckeyes. We begin today's show talking about the positives and a few players that played very, very well. The matchup against the Hoosiers, going into it, I stated it, other people stated it. It was something I stated before the season started. The matchup against the Hoosiers was going to be one of the toughest matchups the Buckeyes are going to have in the regular season. Now, I did not project before the season that it would be the toughest matchup the Buckeyes will have this season. But with the way that the Big Ten is shaping out to be this year, Illinois, Michigan State, and then that team up north at the end of the season, it sure seems like the game is going to be, this past game is going to be the biggest test the Buckeyes will have this season. Now, we all know rivalry games, the Wolverines and Sparty, they may try to be a little bit tougher than they have been to the rest of their opponents, but we all know the Hoosiers are probably going to be the toughest opponent. They will be the toughest opponent the Buckeyes play this year. And in this big matchup, what did we find? We found a battle that many people did not expect, that the Hoosiers offense was going to be able to move the ball that much as they did throughout the year. One other thing that we noticed that was a positive for the Buckeyes, Master Teague and Trey Sermon had a game that nobody expected. It's positive, extremely positive. Master Teague on this in the game. Well, I was almost said on the season. In the game, 26 carries, 169. Say it one more time. 169 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Trey Sermon, 9 carries, 60 rushing yards. Last episode, I think it was on Friday, I mentioned this. I stated that the Buckeyes should hopefully start utilizing their running backs and calling plays that suit that player the best. Teague has plays that suit him very well. Sermon has plays that suit him very well. And so I was hoping, I was kind of thinking and wishing that the Buckeyes are going to call plays that suit those players very, very well. What did we find that we saw? I was not expecting so many outside runs for Teague this past game, but they worked. So you kept running them and running them and running them and running them and running them, and it worked so well. 6.5 yards a pop for Teague, 6.7 yards a pop for Sermon. One other thing that I noticed about Master Teague and the way that he ran this past week, 153 of his 169 yards on the ground came after contact. After contact. So in translation, that boy got hit and he kept on going and going and going. And there are moments in the game, and I sent this tweet out probably in the third quarter. Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. You want to eat up clock when you have Penix who's throwing the ball around, and you have receivers like Marshall, like Fillier, like Freifogel, that you couldn't stop. You want to run the ball to eat up the clock to keep them off the field. So I thought they would run the ball more, or they should run the ball more. They did not, and they still won the game, but the margin could have been a lot wider than it was. Another guy for the Buckeyes who keeps killing the game, Garrett Wilson. 7 catches, 169 receiving yards, 24.1 yards per reception, 2 touchdowns, a long of 65 yards. First play of the game could have been a touchdown. If you remember, Wilson went left. And he would have broke that thing out to the right. I didn't see anybody there that was on the field. All I saw was green. I saw green. And I said, hey, buddy, if you would have gone right instead of left, you could have scored on the first play of the game and really sent a message to the Hoosiers, said, hey, the Buckeyes are serious and we're going to run this game up and score as quickly as we can. Garrett Wilson, he's proving he is not just one of the best receivers in his class as a sophomore. He is one of the best receivers in college football. Then last but not least, the guys that play defense, the front seven of the Buckeyes, it's very, very well. And we'll talk about Pro Football Focus's grades and how they have graded out the Buckeyes' rush defense and offensive receiving and offensive rushing and all the breakdowns that Pro Football Focus has. We'll talk about those down the road later on this week. But the Buckeyes rush defense keeps showing up, showing out. Stevie Scott and the Buckeyes, Stevie Scott and the Hoosiers, they knew it was going to be tough to run the ball. But I don't think they realized how tough it was going to be to run the ball. Stevie Scott, 7 carries, 6 yards. Samson James, the backup, 3 carries, 10 yards. Now, in the game, and I'm going to close out with this, the game they talked about how the Hoosiers had -1 yards of rushing. That was not a sack-adjusted number. In college football, they do put the yards you lose via sacks. They put those into your total rushing yards for the team and as an individual. So Michael Penix Jr. got sacked twice and he lost 11 yards. So the Hoosiers had 12 carries. I believe it was 12 carries for 9 yards total of rushing. That is their sack-adjusted rushing totals. Huge, phenomenal. It's amazing, and I'll get to this in a second, that they abandoned the run because they couldn't run the ball, and they still had as many passing yards as they did, and they're still able to move the ball through the air the way that they did because the Buckeyes couldn't stop the pass. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm going to stop. Let's take one quick timeout. When we come back, we will discuss what went wrong for the Buckeyes, who didn't play well, and it wasn't just the secondary. Do you ever feel like you're always on? What do you do when you need a moment to chill? These days, everything is go, go, go. It's nonstop hustle all the time. Work, friends, family, a million pressing social issues, and an expectation to be on 24/7. Well, there's only one beer out there that's literally made to chill, and that's Coors Light. Coors Light wants you to know that no matter what sport is on this fall, Saturdays are your time to chill. Watching football is therapeutic to fans. It is uninterrupted me time and an excuse to chill and drink beer. Coors Light is the one I choose when I need to unwind. So when you want to hit reset, reach for the beer that's literally made to chill. Get Coors Light and the new look delivered straight to your door at get.coorslight.com. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. As we continue this conversation about the Buckeyes and about the team and about the matchup against the Hoosiers this past weekend, I can't go anywhere without discussing the play of the secondary. It was prevalent. It was obvious. It was hard to get away from and hard to dodge. You know what it is? I say the word dodge. You know what it is in dodgeball? When you're trying to dodge things, you're trying to dodge the ball. And when you're trying to dodge, you're like, oh, I got it. I'm out the way. Oop, you missed me. And that's kind of how it was in dodgeball. I mean, the boy right here, when it comes to dodgeball, I don't throw the ball very well. But what can I do? I can dodge that thing. Hey, if y'all want to find me, well, I want to play a game of dodgeball, PE style back in grade school or even in middle school. Maybe y'all played in high school as well. Let's find me. Let's find some balls. Hey, I have played with volleyballs before. I don't care. You can hit me with that stuff. You can try to hit me with that stuff all you want to. We're going to find out. Dodgeball, I can dodge some stuff. My arm throwing that thing, not that good. That's probably why your boy was never a quarterback, and he wasn't good at baseball either. So you couldn't dodge the mistakes of the secondary. And I'm not going to go to the stat sheet, and I don't have to look at that very long. When you watch the game, you see it wasn't just that they were out of position. The players were out of position. There was miscommunication. And there were times, Shaun Wade as well, when they were in position, sometimes other players as well, but they were in position, they just weren't making plays. And I knew at some point there was going to be a quarterback that was drastically going to pick on Sevyn Banks. Now, he didn't get picked on as much. I mean, it didn't really matter who was guarding who at the time. If Penix found a guy, and Michael Penix is not a good thrower of the football. He does not throw the football very well consistently. Now, he does have an arm. He can throw that. He can throw a cannon. He can throw it deep, and he did throw about a 50-yard bomb during the game. So he can throw the ball deep. He does put some good touch on the ball occasionally. When it comes to being an elite thrower of the football, that is not something that you would describe, that you would utilize to describe Michael Penix Jr. Now, Whop Phillier, Ty Freifogel, who already came off of a career day for him, you all knew they were chomping at the bit to go against the secondary of the Buckeyes, who had already shown they're inexperienced, and with their inexperience, you could exploit their lack of experience and lack of reps they've had on the field consistently. Now, Buckeye fans have fallen in love with guys, Okudah, Arnett, Fuller, that have been there have been there consistently, where Fuller's really the quarterback of the secondary, getting guys in line and where they need to be. One thing I noticed that the Buckeyes do consistently, which is going to hurt them, and it did in this game, which it makes me hold my breath when it happens, you will find Werner or Browning will be lined up one-on-one against the receiver on the sideline, wide out. Why? You have DBs that are good at this now. If they're going to line them up against a tight end, one-on-one on the outside, okay. But there should be no reason why at all I should see a linebacker lined up against a Whop Phillier or a Ty Freifogel. They're not good enough. That's not their skill set. Not at all. Not acceptable. Out of position, miscommunication errors should never happen. You should always listen in practice and Zoom sessions. 2020. You should always listen during the games, make adjustments, and realize, hey, this is coming. This is what we should do. One thing that annoyed me during this game from the secondary, I want to move fast through this. It is that when it came to the trips to the wide side of the field, they had no idea what to do. They had no idea who had what player, where they should be when the players at the snap of the ball, when one went straight, one went left, one went right. They had no idea who had who. And you saw that numerous times over and over and over. Trips to the wide side of the field. Communication errors. Bad. Discuss these things, figure them out, and not let them happen consistently in the same game. But they did. Another player that did not play very well during this game at all is Justin Fields. I have said it here. It's a knock on him. Ryan Roberts of NFL Draft Bible, who was here on the podcast, I've talked to him recently as well. Justin Fields processing plays, bad. It's slow. Very, very slow. You think for an elite quarterback, and you want to say he's better than Trevor Lawrence, he's better than Mac Jones, he should win the Heisman. I know it's Buckeye fans that believe that he should win the Heisman, regardless of how he played this past week. Those guys process plays at an elite level. Justin Fields has the ability to do that at an elite level, I believe. He hasn't done it yet. No, he hasn't. And it's really confusing for me when I'm watching things to say, you're asking why. You're learning things. You're a better quarterback. Some of your throws, or a lot of your throws, they're not good. You're throwing, you don't throw the ball away. You try to make the play and hold on to the ball. I mean, you're doing things that don't make sense. And what do we find? Mistake after mistake after mistake. And it doesn't help Justin Fields when his offensive line went against Rutgers. We talked about this after the Rutgers game. When you overload them, if you're rushing 6, you're rushing 5. If you have a blitz or a delayed blitz or a twist or a stunt, the O-line on the interior struggles. Double A-gap blitz was a problem for the Buckeyes. Wyatt Davis, Harry Miller, Josh Myers. It was a problem for them. You saw Wyatt Davis, I believe, gave up a sack. You saw guys with their backs turned, shoulders turned. They were confused. The off time, it helped the running game. The unexpected bye week, it helped certain players, helped certain aspects. But the O-line issues, field issues, the secondary issues, those continue to be a problem. Those continue to be things that the Buckeyes need to work on. Those continue to be things that need to be fixed for the Buckeyes. They need to be fixed. They hopefully will be fixed. And the next opponent, there's an opportunity for the Buckeyes to get better in every area that they were very, very poor in against the Hoosiers. One more timeout. When we come back, we will discuss why this matchup against the Hoosiers was a needed, trust me, a much needed reality check. You all know how it is. Sometimes, or maybe you or somebody you know, they're looking for a protein bar. They're looking for something to help them when they need a little quick, I won't say quick snack, but you know, protein bars are a fad. There's a trend. I personally am looking for one as well. A protein bar to help me either after a workout or if I'm on the go. Just something to help me in that particular moment. Well, your wait's over. My wait is over. I don't have to look any further. Built Bar is perfect for me. Built Bar is great for the health conscious guy. It'll help you lose or maintain weight while indulging in a delicious treat. Bars are low calorie, low sugar, high protein, high fiber, and it's also great for the keto diet. To get a purchase at BuiltBar.com and to indulge upon the good things that we just discussed, go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCKEDON, that is LOCKEDON, and you will get 20% off your next order. Use promo code LOCKEDON for 20% off at BuiltBar.com. Welcome back to the Locked On Buckeyes podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Today is two things. It's not just Victory Monday, but it's also WKYC Monday as well. With this week being the week of Thanksgiving, we moved WKYC Thursday and changed it to WKYC Monday. Come back tomorrow as we will discuss Justin Fields, his play, and have truly an honest discussion about him. After the Rutgers game, I looked at the schedule, looked to see who the Buckeyes played next. It was Maryland, the Terrapins. And when I was preparing and thinking about the upcoming matchup, now, just be honest with you, all of my thoughts that I'm about to discuss, they came prior to the announcement that the Buckeyes would not play Maryland in that week due to their complications and how they felt they should properly handle players and coaches having testing positive for COVID-19. So going up and leading up into the preparations for that game, or during the preparations for that game, I was thinking about the Buckeyes and said, hey, I actually want the Buckeyes to play the Terrapins. I actually want to see this defense against the Terrapins. I want to see Talia Tagovailoa go up against the Buckeyes defense and see how he handles it. Because honestly, I think the Hoosiers have better receivers than Maryland. I think I'm not sure if Stevie Scott or Jake Funk, who the better running back is. Stevie Scott came in very, very well, very, very hot, but hasn't really, he was a good recruit, but hasn't really played very well this year in the backfield of the Hoosiers. Jake Funk has had good games, really good games this year, so I don't know who the better back is. I want to lean towards Stevie Scott, but Jake Funk's production for the Terrapins has been bigger. Talia Tagovailoa, I do believe, is a better quarterback than Michael Penix Jr., both with his arms and with his legs. So I was curious, and I was wanting to see Tagovailoa go up against the Buckeyes defense and to see how the Buckeyes defense responded, primarily the secondary. Well, that game didn't happen. So we don't have that game. You don't have that measuring stick. You don't have the ability there to see how you respond against a lethal offense, a very good offense. You're not able to see how that test, if you pass, if you get an A, a B, or your middle of the road C, or you fail, get an F, baby. You're not acceptable at all. You don't get that ability to see how that is going to be, how you're able to respond to adversity in that way. Because I truly believe, talk about lower those receivers, Jake Funk running the ball. I don't think Jake Funk would be able to run the ball in the same way that he has against other people, but I do believe Tagovailoa would provide a good threat and a crazy threat that the Buckeyes hadn't seen yet to that point in the season. But that game didn't happen. And so the secondary, I truly believe, needed that reality check that week. Didn't come. So week 12 or week 5, I believe, whatever week it is in college football, this thing keeps going around. Those Big Ten weeks are different than the total season weeks. So I'm not sure where we are. But one thing I do know, I know where we are with this. The secondary needed that reality check bad. Not just for the players on the field, but I think it showed the coaches. Yeah, we can be good. We have a long way to go to be elite in that area, in that particular position field, but position group. The front seven, I'm not worried about them against the run, and I'm actually really impressed with Browning and Werner in pass coverage. They have really impressed me. Borland as well. All three of the linebackers have really raised their play, and the complaints that people used to have last season about them, they're not really having them as much or at all this year. Jonathan Cooper playing well as well. I think it was co-defensive player named by the team for his play against the Buckeyes, against the Hoosiers. Pro Football Focus with their grading system. The Pro Football Focus Team of the Week. As an edge, at the edge position, Jonathan Cooper was there as well. So I'm not really worried about that right now as far as the front seven and the linebackers. But coverage, the secondary needed this smack in the face. Being like, look, y'all ain't playing right. Y'all aren't playing like you're supposed to. Y'all are not playing up to the caliber, up to the ability of Buckeyes. Now, I'm going to say pump the brakes. If you're very, very critical like I have been, pump the brakes. And I have to remind myself of this as well. These guys are getting reps right before us. These guys don't have a season under the belt of playing consistently and of starting experience. They don't have that. So not only do you have a new man calling the shots from last season to this season, not only do you guys have new faces in new places, you're having a weird offseason, so the preparation is different. I know many of you wanted to see some type of – now, Cincinnati's good this year. Y'all wouldn't want to see that. A group of 5 team, a group of 5 school. If you would play Cincinnati in the quote unquote off season, a non-conference game, that game would probably be a whole lot different than what a lot of fans would think. And I would want to. I know Cincinnati's not good, not on Ohio State's caliber, but trust me, with playing them week 1, with the way they've been rolling this year, especially starting the season off, I don't know. I don't know if that's the matchup. Now, hindsight's always 2020 that Buckeye fans wanted to start the season with. But this shows more than we already knew. You got to fix some things, Justin Fields. O-line, you got to fix a lot. Primarily on the interior, but the tackles are not exempt from this either. Secondary, you got to fix this quickly. Now, granted, you do have 3 games. Illinois, Sparty, the Wolverines. Let's just be honest now. They're not world beaters. They're not going to be ranked by that time. The toughest test you'll have before the Big Ten championship game is the Hoosiers. You pass the test via a win. But the holes, baby, if you didn't have this reality check at all, and your only reality check of the only tough game you had was a Big Ten championship, even though you may win that game, that would be tough. Very, very, very tough. And no matter if you're playing the Reese Davises, as Joey Galloway said, and I would not call them Reese Davises, Joey Galloway, they won the game after you said that. If you were playing Wisconsin, doesn't matter who you were playing. It was going to be a tough, tough test for you because you haven't been tested to date. Well, you've been tested. A smack in the face. A reality check. How do you respond? We're going to find out this upcoming Saturday. Thank you guys so much, WKYC family in Cleveland, or if you're watching via News Network in Toledo or Columbus, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Podcast listeners, thank you so much. This is enjoyable. I love this. We'll be back tomorrow. No show on Thursday. Side note, no show Thursday with the being Thanksgiving. That'll be the one day we will have off this week. You guys can always follow me on Twitter at jsteven07. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter as well at Locked On Buckeye. Also, guys, 5-star reviews. Fill up the review section on Apple with 5-star reviews. Other places you can listen to and enjoy Locked On Buckeyes 5 days a week, every Monday through Friday on Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, just to name a few places that you can listen to and enjoy Locked On Buckeyes every day, every Monday through Friday of the week. Come back. We'll be right back here on Tuesday, podcast only, no video version for Tuesday, as we have an honest discussion about Justin Fields. There's a lot to be good about. There's a lot of things. There's a lot to be happy about, but there are also a lot of things he can improve on.